my kings, queens, and fellow non-binary leaders. Welcome back to Nerdy Nekoma. Today we're going to continue with Sweetened Scent, part 5. And some of you may know, because I've hinted at it in one of my recent live streams, which I currently can't really do on YouTube, sorry about that. But there is going to be an extra part for like the first part of this series, The Sunshine Secret, an alternative ending to that, which is going to be more angsty, but obviously still happy end. You know me, no character death or anything like that. That will be coming out soon, and it will be extra long. I planned to make it just one part, but I've been recording already for over 50 minutes on that part, so yeah, it's gonna be 2 parts, and both parts look to be very long. So that is to make up for this shorter part we're currently having in this series, and it's going to come out soon. I hope you're excited for that, but for now, I hope you're excited for this video, so I hope you enjoy. Let's go.
Why are you so on edge? You missed more tosses than usual today. Kageyama looked at him sharply, though Sakusa knew it wasn't meant maliciously. He gritted his teeth, rushing to his phone again, only to find still no new messages. I can't reach Shoyo or Atsumo since 2 days ago. What did he say back then? Something about Sumo being sick, a stomach bug apparently, and then he had to leave suddenly. Kageyama frowned while taking off his knee pads and stretching his shoulders again. He slowly closed the distance between them and looked at Sakusa's phone over his shoulder, while casually scenting him to hopefully calm his mate a little. Have you tried Osamu? If it's about Atsumu, he might know more. Sakusa's eyes lit up, and he immediately scrolled through his contacts to find his mate's twin. He couldn't believe he hadn't considered that himself. His other hand rested on where Tobio had closed his arms around his middle, and he thanked him silently by letting his thumb run over the slightly tanned skin. Sakusa, what gives me the honor? Osamu's voice was dripping with sarcasm, but he didn't let that irritate him. His focus was on Atsumu, much to Kageyama's detriment, who still tried to placate his anxiety. Osamu, have you heard anything from Tsumo recently? Shoyo said he had a stomach bug, and now I can't reach him. A noise of understanding echoed from the other end of the line, and Osamu audibly struggled for an answer. A bit uncomfortably, he continued. Right. I assume he wouldn't have had the time to tell you. Apparently Atsumu went into heat? I don't really understand it either, to be honest. Sakusa frowned confused, as did Kageyama, who rested his head on Sakusa's shoulder and followed the conversation alongside him. They exchanged a concerned glance. Atsumu went into... Are you sure you didn't misunderstand something? Honestly, I understand nothing anymore, but Hinata's with him, right? So, all good. Yeah, I presume. Thank you. They exchanged goodbyes and he hung up. The ace wasn't sure what to be more confused about. All of that? Or that Osamu sounded almost scared when he mentioned their omega. He blinked confused. We're going, right? Definitely. He took a deep breath, and at once the urgency returned. Something was very, very wrong. Luckily, he was always ready to depart quickly and never left his things laying around messily. Tobio, on the other hand... Pack your stuff. I'll tell our coaches there is an emergency. The satyr nodded briskly in response and rushed into action. Sakusa wasn't the only one worried anymore. None of this made sense. What do you think is going on? Is he really sick? They walked to the taxi quickly and helped maneuver their bags into the trunk before sitting down in the back seat. This was all taking too long for Sakusa's taste. He had to lock his jaw tightly not to let his impatient growl slip. I don't know. The only thing I can imagine is that Osamu misunderstood and that Shoyo went into heat, but that would mean something is wrong with the pup. He nodded and felt almost nauseous at the possibility. His hand grabbed Tobio's, and he clung onto it, desperately searching for stability, as did his mate in turn. They arrived home to an oddly quiet apartment. Sakusa gulped and walked inside almost cautiously. Something felt wrong. He glanced at Tobio, who remained equally tense. The hairs on his neck rose, and he felt his heart beating in his throat. The alpha searched the flat with his eyes hectically. The more the unsettling feeling burrowed into his bones, the more he needed to find his mates. He set his back aside and rushed forward. Shoyo? Tsumu? They weren't in the living room, but a half-finished and abandoned nest rested on the sofa. A few snacks were scattered on the table. In the kitchen, cabinets stood open and a water bottle lay on the ground as if it had fallen, but no one had bothered to pick it up. Had they left in a hurry? Where to? Surely if they had left for the hospital, they would have called, right? The bedroom was empty, and slowly Sakusa felt his anxiety taking his air to breathe. Tobio was much calmer. He chased after the nesting room when suddenly a feral growl had them both stopping in their pursuit. Hinata appeared at the end of the hall, his eyes practically glowing as he fixed them on the alphas and gave an unmistakable warning not to approach further. The omega sense spiked sharply. There was no hint of heat in the now biting citrus and burnt sunflower seeds. What in hell are you doing here? Kageyama flinched visibly, while Sakusa remained stunned in place. Never had the Omega's defensive aggression be aimed at them, but now it was unmistakable. He refused to let them one step closer to the nest. Shoyo? Stay back! Go! Now! Every word was biting, and aligned with the growl still rumbling in his chest. His scent was proof that the smaller was running on pure instinct. His fangs glinted elongated behind his lips, and nothing of his usual soft brightness remained. The intensity with which he stared them down now was one Sakusa only knew from the court, but without any of the controlled circumstances. He grabbed Tobio's wrist and pulled him back, his own scent growing placating. The sailor tried weakly to resist the pull with the wine, yearning to reunite with their mate, but reluctantly let him pull him away. That was until an unmistakable cry of pain made them both freeze. Atsumu. Instinctively, Sakusa stepped forward to rush towards him. Everything inside him screamed to protect and soothe, yet if the reaction to Atsumu's cry was strong, the one to Hinata was visceral. The smaller Omega let out a sound he had never heard from him. The warning in the growl that ripped through him was so unmistakable and threatening that it forced his muscles to lock. He felt almost like tied by an alpha command, and his heart seemed to momentarily stop. Tobio next to him wasn't doing any better. A few seconds ticked by in which the wild brown eyes fixed them in place before Hinata's jaw loosened a bit from where it had set tightly, and he straightened his back a little. Living room. Don't come any closer until I say so. Shoyo? Not until I say so. He growled each word, and Sakusa finally caught himself and dragged Tobio back to the living room with him. His heart was racing in his chest, and his skin felt all wrong. The Omega observed them until they were almost back in the Genkan next to the living room. Only when he finally turned away, his eyes no longer piercing them, the Raven felt as though he could breathe again. His grip on Kageyama didn't tighten, and after a long moment they exchanged a hesitant glance. The youngest anxiety suddenly spiked, as though he was only now starting to process what just happened, and his sense soured rapidly. Sakusa winced as it hit him, and quickly and without hesitation led Tobio to the half-formed nest and pulled him into his arms on the poorly arranged mess of blankets. Immediately the setter hit against his chest, and a whimper escaped his throat. His scent said it more clearly than any words ever could. Rejection. To him, their Omega had just rejected them, after years of a lasting mate bond. Sakusa too gasped for air in the abruptly overwhelming flood of emotions crashing down on him after the initial shock began to wane, while building into something much more substantial. He held onto Tobio as his lifeline, trying to desperately figure out what in the seven circles of hell was happening. Their Omega, pregnant Omega mate, went feral over denying them access to their other mate, who sounded very much distressed and potentially even injured. Why weren't they allowed near him? Had someone heard them in their absence? Another alpha? Kiyomi growled before quickly stifling the sound against Kageyama's hair, not to add to his distress. They needed to calm down. They couldn't be of help like this. He forced deep breaths into his lungs and non-verbally encouraged Tobio to do the same by example. He nuzzled at his hair and lapped over his neck, both to coax out more of his pure, undiluted scent to calm himself and to soothe the setter. While rarer on average, alphas could still drop, and that was the last thing they needed right now. Though he knew Tobio took rejection particularly hard, and so he took extra care to gently kiss and rub at his scent glands, was surrounding him with his own to assure the younger of his devotion. Whatever had happened, it was very unlikely that they may just suddenly wanted to break their bond. That much, at least, he was sure of.
Thank you everyone so much for watching to the end, and I have good news. The microphone got delivered, so the next video will be recorded with that. There might be some hiccups in the beginning, but I'm sure we'll figure it all out, and then we can update the quality of this video. Yay! But yeah, let me know what you thought. Also, I know this was very short. I'm very sorry about that, which is why the next part actually will come out tomorrow. So yeah, if you're seeing this right now, it will come out tomorrow. My channel members at this point in time have either one or no, but at this point in time, when everyone is seeing this who's not the channel, so they will have both of them already at sorry, I'm getting these confused. But yeah, as you can tell by this already, special thanks to my nerdy neckos who support this channel so much. If you are also interested in things like early access, feel free to check it out. If you can't at the moment, that's completely fine. Just a comment and like would already go a far way to help me with this channel. So yeah, tell me which should next.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up.